I'm here to present an award to an individual, our Individual WaveMaker for 2022, a man named Paul Malmrose. And Paul, I'm so excited to be able to give this award to Paul because I've been privileged to get to know him over the last couple of years, particularly in his work with the Hudson 7, which is, if you don't know, a collaboration among municipalities who draw drinking water from the Hudson to serve their residents, and this is a intermunicipal collaboration that's sprung up in order to better address protection of that resource for that purpose. Now, Paul has had a distinguished career as an environmental scientist. He recently retired from Tighe Bond. I can't tell you anything about that, and he's not getting the award because of that. He's getting the award because of the extraordinary work he's done as a volunteer since retiring. He has brought not only his engineering expertise, but his personality, which is dogged, which is persistent, which is attentive to details, and focused on issues that matter to this group of 100,000 people who are relying on the Hudson River as a drinking water source. He's focused on some of the biggest issues, in my opinion, that the region is facing, whether it's climate change and the impact that will have on sea level rise and the salt front, which will affect the quality of drinking water in the future, or the way that New York City is managing the Ashokan Reservoir and the turbidity that is released and affects the downstream drinking water source of the Hudson River. And the list goes on. Now, of course, as we've just heard all tonight, everyone makes a difference all on their own and without any help from anyone else. And that's certainly, Paul would be the first to say that there's a group of people that takes to make anything important and worthwhile happen, whether that's the group of the Hudson 7 or the group of folks who are working on the lower Socos Creek, or his colleagues at Tighe Bond, who are increasingly, or continually contributing and helping him to bring resources and expertise to the Hudson 7. So in that spirit, I'm going to call up two of his colleagues, Dan Valentine and Brandee Nelson, I believe, yes? And they are going to accept on his behalf, because the one thing that we couldn't deliver tonight was Paul. So Paul is not here, but on his behalf, please come up and accept this WaveMaker Award for Paul Malmrose.
Hi, good evening. I'm Brandee Nelson. I'm a vice president with Tighe Bond, and I'm much shorter than Paul, so I apologize that he won't be here. And he tells better jokes than I do, so he did give me a little speech, and so I'm honored to accept this award on behalf of Paul. Not only is he a committed water resource engineer and a passionate supporter of the work of the Hudson 7, he's an extremely dedicated family man, and his commitment to family tonight has taken him to an event in Minnesota, and he regrets that he's not here to be able to share this time with you. He is overwhelmed with gratitude to be recognized as the 2022 Individual Watershed WaveMaker, and honored to have his work with the Hudson 7 be recognized by the Hudson River Watershed Alliance. The Hudson 7 is a coalition of 7 municipalities between the Kingston-Rhinebeck Bridge and the Mid-Hudson Bridge that rely on the Hudson River for drinking water. It's 5 public water supplies serving 106,000 residents, 3 hospitals, 3 colleges, major employers, and the mission is to provide safe drinking water for all sorts of uses. Paul has spent many hours working with environmental groups in this alliance and at the Hudson 7 as a technical engineering advisor, and it means so much to him that the work he's passionate about also resonates with others. In the 4 years since its inception, the Hudson 7 has become an entity that has been recognized for protecting our most valuable resource, drinking water. Issues being addressed include the high turbidity water releases from the Ashokan Reservoir, pollution released from brownfield cleanup sites near the water intakes, a planned electrical cable that will be installed beneath the river, railroad bridges that require repair to prevent spills of chemicals and oil into the river, and ship anchorages that are too close to intakes. The latest challenge that's being focused upon is the advancement of the salt front due to climate change. Although regulatory agencies are planning for sea level rise, the question of how an advancing salt front will affect drinking water and the environment has not yet been answered. The Hudson 7 is pressing state and federal government to deal with this issue. Paul wants to remind everyone, and I thank Dan for mentioning this ahead of time, that these things are not accomplished alone, and Paul has many people that he'd like to thank to share the support with. First, he'd like to thank Gary Beczak, the chairperson of the Hudson 7, and Dan Shapley from Riverkeeper, who's had the vision that water utilities and environmental groups can work together to improve water quality for all. Paul would also like to thank the members of the Hudson 7, along with Brandee Nelson and Emily Svenson, with whom he's had the pleasure to support with technical aspects on these critical issues. He'd also like to thank Rebecca Martin from Riverkeeper and Mary McNamara from the Lower Esopus Watershed Partnership, who've advised and educated him on issues and also gently counseled him when he's become too passionate, or should I say angry, about some of the issues. Paul would also like to thank Tighe Bond, the Hudson 7, and Riverkeeper. Tighe Bond, the engineering firm with whom Paul has worked with for the last 14 years of his 40-plus year career in water resource engineering, has supported his efforts through thick and thin. Paul wants to thank his family, especially his wonderful wife Susan, for putting up with all the hours this work requires. They thought he was retired and would be able to help with house projects. Last but not least, Paul wants to thank the Hudson River Watershed Alliance for offering this recognition to an engineer, an environmentalist, and a resident of the Hudson River Valley. The Hudson 7 has provided Paul the opportunity to continue to do meaningful work in his retirement. He hopes that the recognition of this work demonstrates that water utilities, environmental groups, and different political parties can work together to protect our precious resource, the Hudson River. He extends his congratulations to the other WaveMakers and is humbled and appreciative of this award. Thank you.